I just heard on the news break, they caught the guy that killed Ambassador Stevens.
What a surprise.
He's in. Oh,
wait a minute. I thought that the guy who made a film here in the U.S. is the one who killed. Was that not?
Oh, they already caught him.
That's
They already
right.
caught him.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I thought they already had the killer.
And it's only 5 days before the election, and they figured out how to catch the guy in Tunisia, no less. And this weekend, Harvey Weinstein's Seal movie comes out, The Killing of Bin Laden.
Correct.
And that was re-edited to make this president look like a hero. Mm-hmm. Man, we're in an upside-down world, ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to straighten all of that out with the Vaughns. We have Billy on the line. We have Karen here in the studio. And Karen, we're in drive time, 3 to 6. So people pick it up the first hour, then they rush home, put it on their computer. Then other people get in their car to leave. So I got to tell them what we're doing today on Trento Vision, ladies and gentlemen. We're looking at the horrible tragedy that occurred August 6th, 2011 in Afghanistan when a helicopter named Extortion 17 deployed a group of 38 men, right? There were 20. How many SEALs were on it?
22 members of SEAL Team 6.
22 members. Then 7 or 8 Afghanis, soldiers, and then one combat dog, too.
Right.
The dog was on
the
there.
air crew.
And the crew, yeah. We're talking about the Taliban shooting down that helicopter on that night, the tragic event. We're looking into a couple of elements. One element is we're personifying a statistic. 22 members of SEAL Team 6, well, there were SEAL Team 6. How many 6 guys were on there?
There were actually 15 Navy SEALs that were SEAL Team 6 Navy SEALs, and then 5 guys that were members of SEAL Team 6 that were not SEALs, their support staff, like explosive ordnance device, those types of people.
All right, well, what happens when you deconstruct these things or when you read about them, numbers 22, 30, these are human beings.
Right.
And what we wanted to do today is to bring one of the parents, two of the parents, one on the line and one here in the studio, of one of these human beings, let you kind of get to learn a little bit about an individual who became one of the top warriors in the world, one of the 300 Spartans, if you will, and then look at the mission that indicates, illustrates, underscores a massive categorical failure by the Obama administration. Why? Why are we doing this? So when you vote today, if you go early voting, or tomorrow or the next day, or everybody on Tuesday, you do not vote for this president because not only has he failed this country, but he chooses to diminish and change the structure of our tremendous fighting force to a second-rate military. He believes that makes the world safer. It's crazy. And if you're a veteran out there, you gotta stay with us for the next 2 hours and listen to Karen and listen to Billy. Billy, let me introduce you as you are sitting around. You weren't able to make it in here today. We're so glad you're on the line. How you doing? You're with Tom, your wife Karen, Mark is here, CJ is here, Mike is here. We're all here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Tom. Thank you for having me.
What have you listened to any of the show? Have you been on, or are you just tuning in, or what?
I just tuned in. I'm sorry. I just tuned in before the last break, so I heard a little bit of it.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
We have time, and this is so critical. And there's we're not playing any games. We're doing this show just before the election, so that those undecideds or those veterans can really reconsider their vote and not vote for this president. Now, do you agree or disagree with us on that one?
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, only if you care about the survival of the republic. If you care about America as our founders founded it on those principles and a constitutional representative republic, you will not vote for this president.
Yeah, and to help people understand the seriousness and the gravity of the failure, friends of ours put together, and friends of yours put together a little commercial. Tell us about the commercial. We're going to play it.
Well, Veterans for Strong America, Joel Aaron's group.
Veterans for Strong America. What do they
for
do?
Strong America. Well, they're a PAC that's just running ads geared towards the military, primarily towards veterans, I would assume. They're trying to get the message out about the danger that this president imposes on this country, and so they've been great friends of ours, great to help us tell the story, and they've created a couple national commercials that are playing in primarily the swing states. Although I found out that they're airing them in some other places too, because I'm getting reports from friends and family across the country. But the one ad that we're about to play right now is the ad about the leaks, and it'll speak for itself if you want to run it.
Now, this was going to play. Was this the one with the National Geographic?
This one was supposed to play during the National Geographic show coming up, like you said, 2 days before the election. But the president of National Geographic axed the ad and said that he did not want the program to be politicized.
What was the program?
Well, the program was how our great president, hero in chief, took out Osama bin Laden.
Was that the one that Harvey Weinstein did?
Yes.
Oh, it's on National Geographic.
On National Geographic.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
No.
Oh, this is amazing. So Harvey Weinstein, a Hollywood director producer, makes a pro-Obama, I killed Osama bin Laden, I did it myself, movie about, I get Osama and Obama mixed up.
Often.
As did Ted Kennedy. Remember when he introduced Osama? Here's Obama, or whatever his name is. So Harvey Weinstein makes a movie, going to release it a couple of days before. You guys participate. Are you in this thing?
Yes.
You guys participate in a commercial exposing the failure of the president, and the president of National Geographic Television doesn't want to run it because he doesn't want to politicize it. Oh, my God.
Correct.
This is crazy. All right, let's watch it and listen to it.
Aaron called me. His tone was extremely serious, and he said, "Mom, you need to wipe your social media clean. Get rid of everything, any reference of me or my buddies, because there's chatter, and all of our lives are possibly in danger, including yours."
Defense Secretary Robert Gates is very concerned too much classified information has gotten out.
We all agreed that we would not release any operational details from the effort to take out bin Laden. That all fell apart the next day.
Navy SEALs and what they did last Sunday.
How dare they? They put a target on my son's back, and even on my back. But a little over 90 days later, my son was dead.
National security leaks threaten American lives. We need leaders who understand that. Veterans for a Strong America is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Wow, that's good. That's very good. Right to the point. Oh, then it pushes.
And by the way, Tom,
Yeah.
by the way, it's all facts, too. National Security Institute it's not facts, but yet they're going to show the propaganda of President Obama and the bin Laden raid.
Well, that story has to get out. A lot of times, Billy, when the left does these crazy things where they try to suppress this stuff, that story's bigger than what the commercial would have done. You know. So we're going to be watching. When is it supposed to be aired? The movie about Obama killing Osama.
November 4th, and yes, you got that exactly right, according to him.
November 4th. We had our good friend Mort from Mort's Art. Maybe we can find that little thing. He did a drawing for us that says, Osama died, Obama lied, and GM is fried, right? Mm-hmm. The whole presidency is built on sand. As it came out recently, our good friend General Paul Vallely helped add to a story that broke about a month ago that Panetta, after Valerie Jarrett made the president stop the effort to the deployment to kill Osama twice, 2 or 3 times, Panetta actually worked around him when he was on a golf course playing golf. When the helicopters got into Pakistan space, they went and picked up the president, brought him in, and he couldn't do anything about it at that point. So the guy really had very little to do with it. And, you know, protocol says you give him the credit because he's the president. I don't give him the credit. I don't give him any respect. The respect is to the office of the presidency. If you get an idiot that goes in there, you don't respect the idiot. If you get somebody committed to changing your country in a way that destroys it, you absolutely don't respect it. And if you're a veteran How in the world can you respect this person as a commander-in-chief? I don't get it.
Yeah,
what was so wrong with America that it needed a transformation, a fundamental transformation, which is what he's clearly attempted. Now it's not rhetoric anymore. We have seen over the past 4 years that is exactly what he has set forward to do, exactly what he told us he was going to do, is fundamentally transform America.
And I would have had respect for him if he'd just said, hey, we got bin Laden, you know, a bunch of special operators got him, and just threw terror in the whole enemy's eyes, and not say a word. There was no reason whatsoever to take credit.
The way it should have been done, I mean, this is not a hard thing to do. You know, we many of us live in this kind of world, talking to these folks and dealing with this. Nobody should have known anything.
Right.
Those computers were filled with names and contacts and everything else that could have been exploited for a year. He should have. Now, the word would have gone out that he was killed, but nobody would have really known all the detail, all of that, and we could have exploited all that intelligence and taken down so many of these people. What a disaster. What a complete disaster. Unbelievable. In any event, let's get back to the timeline we're developing here on TrentoVision.tv, WNN 1470, 17 minutes after 4 o'clock on the East Coast, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 75 degrees on November 1 as you're driving in your car and you're tuning in for the first time. My name is Tom Trento. We do a show 3 to 6 every day dealing with national security issues, but we dive deeply into them. We investigate them. We actually go to some of these Islamic places to expose it with cameras. We fight the Muslim Brotherhood. Today we're looking at the tragedy of August 6th, 2011, when a helicopter full of America's top warriors was shot down by the Taliban. And we're privileged and honored to have in the studio the mother of one of those warriors, Aaron Vaughn, the mother, Karen Vaughn, and on the phone with us is Billy Vaughn. So, Karen, I did that little call for congressional investigation August 8th, then went to the memorial. August 22nd or 23rd?
Right in there.
Right in there. And was very moved by that. Then we were organizing an event in Tallahassee in January, and I tried to get in touch with you guys. I forgot how I tried. Something fell through. And then just a few days before, I said, let me see if they got anything on the Facebook. And I went to Facebook and I sent a note. Did you get the note?
I did.
Okay. I think it was like in January.
It was 2 days before your event, I
Okay,
believe.
it was January 10th was our event. And then, Billy, I called you up, and I said, can you come up here? You go, I'm driving. Now, what was the story? You were driving toward Tallahassee or something in January?
I was actually headed to Oklahoma, where I was headed, but I had to go by Tallahassee. So, yeah.
So it worked out perfectly. We had Billy speak. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, he got kicked out of the...
Got kicked out of what?
Huh? You talking about Tallahassee?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the top floor of the state capitol, where the guy came up.
That wasn't.
That was a different day.
Oh, no, I'm thinking
that was Muslim Day,
man. Okay.
Yeah, he became a troublemaker there.
He's always been a troublemaker. Yeah.
No, January 10th, we had an array of distinguished speakers. And
you're talking about, okay.
Yeah. And Billy, you spoke, as you know, and one of the unique moments, ladies and gentlemen, of that event was we had David Beamer as one of our speakers, and David's son is Todd Beamer, who was on Flight 93, the infamous clarion call, "Let's roll." Well, in a similar fashion as you guys, he lost his son to jihadis, and it was a very unique moment. If you could recall it for us, Billy, when you met Todd Beamer there, and tell us a little bit about what took place there.
David Beamer.
Yeah, David Beamer, Todd's father.
Yeah, when I met Mr. Beamer, he was very, very nice gentleman, and I just explained to him, told him, said something to him about sorry about his son's loss and losing Todd, and that actually his son was one of Aaron's heroes, because Aaron was just a young man, very young man when 9/11 happened, and that had been those brave Americans had been at least part of the inspiration for Aaron going back to his lifelong dream to become a SEAL, and that's what I was able to tell him that day, and I was very privileged to get to meet him. And by the way, Aaron in 2001, 9/11, as I said, caused Aaron to go back to his dream to being a SEAL. He had not been able to be because of an injury that he had in high school, but towards ACL. But I was thinking the other day, in 2001, November 2001, Aaron was training to be a Navy SEAL, and I wonder where President Barack Obama was at that time.
Yeah, we can find out. That would be very interesting to find out. Karen, that was a very moving moment for me when I introduced the two of them. A little piece of history it was right there. This whole episode has been moving for all of us, really. But Billy just introduced the fact that Aaron had a dream to be a SEAL. Take a few moments and share with the viewers and the listeners, who your son Aaron was.
I'd love to. Aaron, the most significant thing that I could tell anybody about Aaron is that he gave his life to Christ at a very young age. And because of that, he had something in him that was different than most young boys. He had a countenance that was mature way beyond his years. He had an ability, the most profound thing that he had was an ability to see things in black and white. And I would say most profound is the fact that he was never afraid to recognize or call out evil. And I say that because I think that that's one thing we really suffer as a country, is the ability to even acknowledge evil. I think it terrifies us so much that we, as a society, like and would prefer to pretend that it doesn't exist. But Aaron never had that privilege. His heart was very in tune with evil. He really understood it. And so probably by the time that he was 8 years old, he would tell anybody that wanted to have a conversation with him that he was going to be a Navy SEAL. He'd dress up like a ninja. He'd put face paint on. He'd slither up to our family members' homes, and hide under their windows and make noises. I mean, he was determined that this is what he was going to do with his life. And so as he grew, he held on to that dream. He wanted to do two things in life. He wanted to play college football, and he wanted to become a Navy SEAL. And we knew that Aaron was capable of doing anything that he ever dreamed of doing. Aaron was an extraordinarily capable person, strong in spirit, more so in spirit than he was physically. Of course, he became extraordinarily strong physically, but he always had that warrior heart burning inside him. So when he came home on his 21st birthday and told Billy and I that he had joined the SEAL Challenge program, we really weren't surprised at all. Like Billy said, 9/11 had just happened, and that dream was reignited. But to go back to what Billy said about his ACL, and the reason we sat across the table from him and said, son, you realize that if you don't become a SEAL, you're still going to be in the Navy, right? You're going to have to go on boats and stuff. And Aaron was just absolutely, no, Mom, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. I'm going to do this. And the reason we had doubts about that was because, like Billy said, in his senior year of high school, I pulled up to the football field one day to watch his practice and saw somebody laying on the field. The whole team gathered around him, and of course it was Aaron, and he had obliterated his ACL and torn the other ligaments in his knee, in his left knee. And after 2 failed surgeries, to make a long story short, there was nothing more that they could do for his knee. And so I remember sitting in the orthopedic surgeon's office with him one day when the doctor looked him in the eye and said, you're never going to be able to play football again. There's nothing else we can do for you. And I remember that long drive home of Aaron just absolutely brokenhearted over this fate that had been handed to him. So what he did was he graduated from high school. He went right on into college, got a great job with Jupiter Island Club and golf course management, had a phenomenal career in front of him. But, like September 11th came and went, and he just determined in his heart that he could not be held back by his circumstances, that he had to do what he felt like he'd been created to do since he was a little boy, and he went for it. I remember us getting on the internet and looking up exercises that would form the muscle around his knee that would stabilize that joint without his ACL, because he couldn't tell the Navy that he didn't have an ACL, or they would have never let him in the program. So he had to figure out how to do everything without his brace, which was a phenomenal feat. But one that Aaron was very humbled by, because all throughout his entire time on the teams, every time we would talk about it, he would just be so humbled by the fact that God had allowed him to fulfill that dream. And he absolutely knew that it was a God thing, nothing that he could have done on his own power, but absolutely a God thing.
I don't know if the audience gets the magnitude of this. The ACL, what is it? Anterior cruciate ligament.
Mm-hmm.
Holds your knee together,
Right.
okay? And can't play football. Well, if you can't play football, you certainly don't have the ability
To be a seal.
to climb and jump out of airplanes and God. So he did a workaround somehow. I
Right.
mean, that is miraculous. There's so many different things. What?
One of the things I want to bring up, and just to give an idea of how much Aaron was respected by not only his parents and but by also his Navy SEAL members. When he died, you told me of the tridents, and can you mind,
Well, let me have Billy.
Okay, yeah.
Let me
go
get
ahead.
Billy in here. Billy, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Explain to the audience, the listeners and viewers. We're at the bottom of the hour here, folks. TrentoVision.tv, WNN 1470. We have the Vaughns with us, Billy and Karen Vaughn, parents of one of the Navy SEAL Team 6 special operators who was killed in action August 6, 2011. And we're going through Aaron's life, this particular mission, and the exercise today is to inform voters, inform Americans as to the magnitude of this individual, the unbelievable capability of our warriors, and the failure of this administration. You got to put all these pieces together to respect the capabilities of these people and allow them to fight the wars that need to be fought to win. And Aaron was killed, and there's a tradition in the SEALs. Billy, why don't you pick it up and explain what that tradition is and what took place at Arlington?
Well, I'm sure probably most of your viewers have seen, even on the Act of Valor, you notice the SEAL that got killed, and when they had his funeral, the SEALs at the funeral went by and pounded a trident into the coffin. And, of course, that's the same thing that took place at Arlington on that day that they had the funerals of many of the SEALs who had been killed on Extortion 17. And I say this humbly because this is how much fellow SEALs thought of Aaron. Of all the SEALs there, he had more tridents on his coffin than any of the rest of them. In fact.
I'm counting 26 on it. Yeah.
More than probably most of them put together, and this is only because of what other SEALs thought of our son. They draped over each end of the coffin because there wasn't enough room for the tridents to stay on the top of the coffin. They completely covered the top and actually draped over at least one end. So he was a well thought of, well respected SEAL. And another point that your viewers may not know. After you become a SEAL in the other teams, to actually make it to SEAL Team 6, the SEALs, the Tier 2 SEALs, all go through the most rigorous training of any of the armed forces in the world. But then to Team 6, there's even more rigorous training, and if they pass all that training, it doesn't mean necessarily that they make it. Then Team 6 select who they want to select. So just because you're good enough physically, tactically, and all those things doesn't mean you'll be selected. So the men of Team 6 are very special men.
Yeah, that goes.
All the fields.
That goes without question. You mentioned the movie Act of Valor. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not seen the movie Act of Valor, you need to see it. I've watched it several times. It's, well, Karen, tell us about Act of Valor.
Well, what I want to tell you about Act of Valor is that Aaron actually filmed this movie just before his son Reagan was born. And it was pretty cool because the movie, the headlines started playing about it, the previews started playing just after Aaron died, and we were all curious, is this the one that he filmed? Because he wouldn't talk about it, because Aaron, you know, he just, I mean, everything was like, oh, come on, Chuck. You know, he's a little embarrassed that he'd been in a movie, you know. But what a gift to our family to be able to watch Aaron work. That's something none of us were ever privileged enough to do, but we actually got to watch him work in Act of Valor, and the treasure that is for his little boy to one day get to grow up and watch the footage of his father. And there are some incredible scenes that Aaron shot in that movie, and it's just a treasure. It is an absolute treasure for us to get to enjoy.
And one of the unique elements or distinctives of this movie, Act of Valor. Go watch it, you know, buy it, download it, whatever, Act of Valor. It's a story about a SEAL mission, a SEAL operation. But all the SEALs, they're all real SEALs in the whole thing. And they said, look, you know, we're not movie actors and all that. We're going to do what we do. And by the way, the guns are all going to be loaded. The bullets are going to be for real. We know what we're doing, so just stay out of our way and everything will be okay. It's all live fire stuff.
Insisted on authenticity.
It is amazing. So you need to see Act of Valor. And so in the final cut, did Aaron make it into the final cut?
He did. You'll see him all through the movie. Yep.
That's great. That is great. Yeah. Well,
can I add one thing to
absolutely.
when Mark was saying that about what people thought about Aaron? I like to tell people, just to give you a gist of who he was. His one of the men at the funeral walked up to Billy and I, and he said, "If I had 5 men like Aaron, I could conquer the world." But probably more important than that to us was several of his teammates said comments to this effect, that Aaron was a light for Christ in a very dark world. That means more to us than probably anything.
So his Christian testimony, it's very interesting. For those of you who are veterans or are considering going into the military, you can be a Christian and be a top-tier warrior, okay? Talk to us if you have a problem with that, but you can do that for sure, as Aaron exemplified. He was also a pretty big guy, and the stories we've heard now through the years, he was a breacher. Billy, tell everybody what a breacher is.
Did you say Billy?
Yeah. That's your name. Yes, Billy.
Yeah, it is. The breacher is the guy who breaks down the door when they do an op, when they go into place. The lead breacher is the front guy, first guy to go in, guy to go up to place the explosive on the door or whatever entry there's going to be. So, lead man on the attack.
So, just to clarify, so if he was one of the, if he was on the team, which he was not, on the team that went in to kill bin Laden, he would have been the guy to break down a door and then put one in the head, one in the chest. Is that correct?
No. I can't say that. That's Mark asking that.
Yeah, that's Mark.
If he broke the door down, if he did break the door down, and however they went in, then there might be, and there may very well probably be a man with a gun that would follow Aaron as Aaron got the door down. So.
Okay, so he'd be his backup. All right.
Well, it's extremely dangerous position because you're there. You got if you're using a battering ram, those little rams or bars or whatever, it's hard to have a weapon and all of that. So you're exposed. You're complete. That's why there's so many tridents on there, because he put himself in the line of fire so many times that these guys had so much respect for him. And probably when they said, you don't have to do this anymore, he goes, that's all right. I'll keep doing it. I'll keep knocking the doors down. So, and look, what we're doing, ladies and gentlemen, today, 35 minutes after the hour, we're talking about a mission. U.S. Navy SEAL mission, SEAL Team 6, August 6, 2011, that went awfully bad, and everyone was killed immediately. And we're going to get into the details of the mission. But this show has taken an interesting, very personal turn toward the individual, this particular person. And we've had the opportunity, Billy and Karen, to meet with Eric Blem, who has written extensively about SEALs, special operators. We interviewed him in California, and he told us stories of several of the guys, 7 of the guys that were on Extortion 17, and he got to know them fairly well. And they all have this caliber of quality, of integrity, toughness, commitment, patriotism. I mean, these are the top-tier human beings that pick up weapons to go fight the enemy. It is simply, and today our show is taking a very personal look into your son's life. Now, on the other end, Billy and Karen, when you lose a son or a daughter in combat, particularly at this level, usually there's some sort of crossing the paths with the commander-in-chief. Can you tell us a story about if you guys ever had an opportunity to meet the president?
Yeah.
Karen, Billy, why don't you start? Yeah.
Well, you know, when they brought the all the warriors back to Dover, they took the families up to Dover and put us up in hotels, and we went to the Air Force Base the next day. And they asked us in the meantime that night. They came around and asked the families, "Do you want press there? Do you want pictures there?" And our family said no. And I don't know if it was unanimous or not. Many of the families didn't even want President Obama there. But they came back around and told us that, you know, that's what the other families want. No pictures, no press. So it was fine. There was no press allowed in. The Air Force was, the Air Base was on lockdown. There were men with guns, with assault rifles all around the perimeter everywhere. But lo and behold, the next day, across the newspapers and the TVs of the world, there was the commander-in-chief with his picture saluting one of the coffins of one of the warriors. So, as he does most things, except Benghazi, he made it all about him once again. And then Karen can tell you, we actually got to, as Mr. Woods described the other night, we got to shake his cold, dead fish hand and look into those dead, cold eyes, too, as he came by and told us how much he appreciated our son's service. Now he and Michelle were so sorry. Go ahead, Karen. I'm sorry.
No, I appreciated what Mr. Woods said also. I'm paraphrasing.
Mr. Woods is Tyrone Woods' father.
Woods' father, when he said just a couple days ago that it's way better to die a hero than to live like a coward.
Yeah. And
I have to ditto that 1,000 times over. And that is Billy's right. That's exactly the experience we had with President Obama. It was a sense that he had to be there, that he was doing his due diligence, but there was almost, in my mind, there was a sense of contempt for most of us, a sense of just a total lack of respect. And like Billy said, when we found out the next day that our wishes had not been met, and just remember, the same time that Tyrone Woods' father had this conversation with the president, and when Hillary Clinton came up and blamed the video once again and said she'd get to the bottom of it, remember, and also, let me just bring this up in case anybody missed this, and I feel really, I'm not a crude-mouthed person, but I'm going to say this even though it's crude because it's important to know. And that's that Joe Biden stood in this man's face and said, "Did your son always have balls the size of cue balls?" And I just want to say, from the perspective of a parent who has gone to Dover Air Force Base to welcome the remains of my child home, there was not a more sacred moment in my life than that day. And for Joe Biden to blow that off with some boisterous, obscene comment about the size of his son's...
Okay.
Yeah. It was disgusting, appalling, and if anybody saw the video that ran over and over and over again about me saying out of touch, that's what this entire administration is. They are out of touch. They have no clue that it's a human being that puts those boots on, because they have no honor. And that's how I feel about it. Anybody that has honor about them would never speak to a parent in that fashion when they're receiving the remains of their child who died on foreign soil, and you never got to see that child's face again. And that's how you're treated with that level of disrespect. It appalls me.
Joe Biden needs to be put in his place. He needs to be put in his place by some American who is an American and who loves this country and who has respect in public, not to say things that begin with the letter F, not to downgrade and degrade people like he does, and not to talk about people's children. He doesn't realize what his pay grade is.
And when Sean Smith's mother when Sean Smith's mother described her meeting with Obama, that she hugged him and cried on his shoulder, and then when she looked up at him, he was looking over her shoulder at something else, completely disinterested. I mean, I think at the lowest possible level of communication as human beings, if any of us were ever at a funeral, we would not show that type of contempt for a human being who had just lost their child. But this man's very commander-in-chief has that sort of contempt for the people serving around this country in danger for on his behalf, and it has got to be called out. These acts have got to be called out, which leads us to the letters. And I don't know if you want to go there right now, or if you want to talk about August 6th first. But
let me just say that President Barack Obama and his Vice President and his Secretary of State don't just have contempt for the military; they have it for all Americans.
Right.
It just comes in a more vile way when it's displayed toward the military. If they have the brass to do that, but that's the way they feel about all Americans. I believe that's at the bottom of my heart.
Well, in 5 days, those of you listening, particularly those of you that took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States, put on the uniform, you're a veteran of the military. You've listened just now to two parents of a son who gave his life to serve and protect, and a president that has no concept. If you're in uniform, or if you've worn the uniform of the United States military, it's incomprehensible, ladies and gentlemen, how you can minimize the importance of the quality of the individual who takes up arms to defend us in a very violent war, and you trade that, the importance of that, for Obamacare or some other issue that is secondary to the preservation of this republic. We are in much more dangerous times 4 years after this gentleman got in office than we have ever been in. We're disrespected and not feared nor loved. If people don't love us, they have to fear us. They neither love us nor fear us now. They disrespect us because of what you heard Billy and Karen say on a micro level at Dover Air Base, receiving their son after being killed in Afghanistan, on a macro level with his foreign policy and national security principles. The world doesn't respect us simply because he doesn't respect our military. You can do something about that. You can vote intelligently and vote for the security of the United States on the 6th of November. Critically important. Now, if that doesn't persuade you, you got to take a look at this next little video. Was it 30 seconds or a minute?
30 seconds, I believe.
I just have a quick question.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, after this whole thing at Dover Air Force Base, the president, because this was the largest loss of life of Navy SEAL history.
In the history
of Navy SEALs. And of course, I mean, as a president, if I was a president, I think if any logical person be the president, they, of course, sent you a signed letter, a plaque, gave an award ceremony for the loss of your son. That all happened, correct?
No.
What happened? Should we play the video?
Yeah, play the video. But before you play that video, let me say one other thing to any veterans that might be listening. I just want you to know that operators in the field right now, Tier 1 and Tier 2 operators, are telling us that if President Obama gets reelected, they're out because they don't trust him. He doesn't have their backs. It's a dangerous field out there. I get letters nearly every day from parents of people who are in Afghanistan right now who are saying, my son or my daughter is furious. And we're going to talk a lot about the rules of engagement, the conditions that this president is making our forces fight under. But first, yes, if you'd run that out about the letters, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, this is what he didn't give you, present you with a flag or anything like that. This is what he did.
Navy SEALs were killed when their helicopter was shot down in war.
A friend of mine said that the letter that she had received from Bush was a personalized letter. Some of the other families in this crash had received letters from President Obama that were not personalized. They were form letters. A family sacrifices their child, and you choose to send a form letter to them.
Veterans for a Strong America is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Just because they put a uniform on, they didn't become not human anymore.
22 Navy SEALs were killed when their helicopter was shot down in war.
A friend of mine said that the letter that she had received from Bush was a personalized letter. Some of the other families in this crash had received letters from President Obama that were not personalized. They were form letters. A family sacrifices their child, and you choose to send a form letter to them.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit because there's more than just that 30 seconds. Give us the backstory, Karen.
Well, so I got some splashback on this when this ad came out. A lot of people commented that why is this mother just now bringing this up, a year after her son died, and perceived that it was probably a lie because of that, which I just find to be funny. If anybody has ever lost a child, they will know that it's a year before you function properly, much less start digging into information you've collected and start trying to make sense of what's happened in your world. But what happened is I ran into a mom who told me about this really wonderful letter, like I said, that she had received upon the death of her special warfare operating son. And so I got mine out.
From President Bush.
From President Bush, excuse me. Yes, absolutely, honey. And so I got my letter out, and I just called one of the other mothers whose sons died in the same crash that Aaron did, and I said, would you mind just sending me a copy of your letter? Because I wondered if there was any personal touch to my letter or hers. When she sent me the copy of her letter, I just was shocked.
She sent it in the mail, like a copy?
She scanned it and emailed it to me.
And you opened it up.
I opened the file, and it is my letter with simple address changes and name changes.
Insert name here.
Fill in the blank, insert name here, form letter. So I called a couple of the other mothers. I got their copies identical. And that's when I knew that we had a real problem here, a problem, a total lack of respect for these men who had sacrificed their lives that day. Little did I know, I was soon to find out that every single person who's died in this war since President Obama became their commander-in-chief have received the same letter. Whether it's a wife, whether it's a mother, no matter who it is, they all get the very same letter.
You're kidding me.
And on top of that, the question was raised initially when I broke this story a couple months back at the RNC. Mm-hmm. The question was raised, were they auto pin signed? Now, I have to tell you, I didn't know what an auto pin was.
Auto pen.
Auto pen. Okay. And one of the congressmen at the RNC walked up and looked at the three letters that I had laying on a desk there, and he said, well, that's an auto pen signature. And I said, what's that? And he said, exactly what it sounds like. It feeds the paper right into it, the pen signs it, shoots it out, draws another one in, the pen signs it. And I said, but they're not identical. And he said, you can program like 12 signatures into these things so that they're not absolutely identical. But the identifying fact is they're signed in the exact same place on every page. And I mean, the details that are different, I'm talking about like you couldn't replicate, I couldn't replicate my signature like that twice, much less hundreds of times. And so that is what first put our name before the President of the United States, because when that story broke about the auto-pen letters, he came out, and of course he could not deny that they were duplicates, that they were just automatically produced, generated letters that came out. He insisted that he personally signed them. Well, we have those letters being investigated by, who was it, Billy, that tested the handwriting on the guy that's testing the handwriting is the same one who tested it for, who was it, Billy?
Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes.
Oh.
So the documents.
Howard Hughes' will. Howard Hughes' will.
Oh.
Okay, so the documents are in good hands, and I have.
He authenticated Howard Hughes' will.
Okay, so this is the gentleman that has these letters. Now, I am absolutely positive that they're going to come back with the notification that they were auto-pen signatures, and this is when I firmly believe that I was convinced of this, and that's when I spoke to one mother a couple weeks ago who received 12 copies of that letter in different envelopes on different days.
Wait.
12
Yes.
copies.
I'm following you here. I think the you got a form letter
Right.
with just the name of your child, obviously, and your address, and the auto pen signed, possibly different styles, but in the same exact place on the page.
Right.
Which is virtually impossible to do if you're
same
signing a
place
bunch of
on the
letters.
page. Right.
Okay. Now you sent it for analysis to determine if it was an auto pen.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I have a little comment on that.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant, right?
Because an automaton signed it. An automaton is a robotic-like person. If he truly signed a form letter like that, that's even more disgusting than if a mechanical pen did it. How could you sign? Here's what's the guy's name in Sarasota? The Bell. It was a Bell. The family that he was on the chopper. One of the SEAL teams.
Oh, Bill. Brian Bill's father.
Brian Bill. You know, you go Brian Bill, Sarasota, Florida, and you just sign it. Aaron Vaughn, Florida, you just sign it. I mean,
It's actually worse if he.
it is worse. It's worse because you're taking a form letter, taking the time to sign it yourself, but you don't care what's in there. If there's any personal stuff about it or anything, why take the? So it's even more egregious.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Tom, it's no doubt it's an auto pen.
Yeah.
Why would somebody signing them send 12 to one address?
That I was getting to that next. Now we go to the next problem. So we got a problem if an auto pen signed one. We got a problem if the automaton, the robot president, signed it. Now, what are you talking about? A lady got 12. How did that happen?
Well, you be the judge of that. I mean, how could you let 12 letters come across your desk and sign them made out to the same family, the same "I'm sorry for your loss"? Michelle and I grieve.
Well,
we grieve with you.
I know you guys, and you're friends of ours. I'm not quite buying that. If there's 12 letters in one, that's major news. Okay, that will turn votes. If anything's going to turn votes for the veterans, they're going to look at that and go, "You got to be kidding me." When will this information come out?
Let me explain one thing. This is hard, and it may make me emotional more than anything we've talked about today. As you said when this show started, this was not a path that we chose. This path chose us. Now, I have unimaginable respect for every single family that lost a son or a spouse on that helicopter that night. But none of the others have chosen our path. And that's fine, because I believe that God completely directed our path to do what we're doing. But most of the others want some anonymity to remain in their lives. They don't want to, because listen, what we're doing, as you and I both know, it's dangerous.
It's hard.
I mean, it's dangerous. There are threats. There are suggestions. This has not been an easy path for us. It's something you have to weigh in the balance every day. Is this worth it to keep doing? Billy and I have been before God, and we have said it's worth it. This is what we're supposed to be doing. But I don't expect that from anybody else, and that's exactly why you probably will never hear from that family about the letters. You might. It might surprise me, but if it doesn't come out from their mouth and the letters be shown, I understand. It's not a fight everybody's willing to wage against a sitting president.
And don't take anything away from those people either.
That's exactly
Well, no,
right.
if
They
they-
have every right.
They have
they-
the right to do that.
And that's how I feel. But
Even if they redacted it, it would get out that it's them, and then their life is completely changed
that's
forever.
correct.
So
As ours has been.
yeah. And well, look, we hope to change more lives in the next segment.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, we got about 30 seconds.
Okay, this is quick. One thing we were offered from the president, though, we were told we could get a portrait of him if we would like it.
Yeah, he would gladly sign and send us a portrait.
Oh, great.
Oh, I hope you got it. Target practice, man, you know?
Well, I wasn't going to say that on the radio. But,
I know.
Such a gracious man.
Yeah, just full of love and kindness and
I don't want
compassion.
to take that
Ideological target practice for an ideological battle we're in. No, but here's the bottom line. We've dealt with some personal issues here for sure, and we're going to switch gears in the next segment to the rules of engagement and how that is hamstrapping, bootstrapping, duct taping these guys together. So hang with us, Billy. We'll be back in a little bit. Tom Trento, Karen Vaughn, CJ Mark, all of us discussing some tough issues today, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for tuning in to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set